one step closer. Wembley is on the horizon, gentlemen. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel today. My name is the Crimson Wolf and welcome back to the Blue Review, my Chelsea series where I review all and every previous game that we have just undertaken, this time being our EFL Cup mauling, more or less, of AFC Barrow. If you're new to the channel around here, let me quickly get you up to speed on how my Blue Review works. I basically go through 8 points from the game, Lampard's famous 8 as I like to call it, and put them all into a tier list comprised of red cards for bad things, yellow cards for mid things, and blue cards for good things. I'm not going to waste much time on this, so I will just get into it. While it was a very good performance, there are 2 yellow cards. I am going to be quite harsh with both of these, and the first one of those is for Benoit Badiashile. I do kind of feel bad giving Badiashile this. He didn't play badly. However, he was having those moments where he was being quite shaky and quite unconvincing. And if he's doing that against Barrow, that makes me incredibly concerned for if we have to play him against a much tougher opposition. Badiashile has been on a slow decline since we signed him, which massively concerns me. He's not the same player we signed back in January of 23. Today was not something that convinces me that he's getting anywhere close to back to being his best. With any luck, he's not going to see the pitch too often in high-profile games, but if he ever does need to see the pitch, it needs to be a lot more convincing than this was. Second yellow card, and this is admittedly unbelievably harsh, but I want to talk about Joshua Chempong. I was not convinced when he came on today. If you've probably seen my countdown for this game, I did say I wanted Joshua Chempong to start at right back because I did not believe Malagusto would start this game, and obviously Reece James is still unavailable. He didn't start. Malagusto did start and played 45 minutes, and Josh didn't get into the game until about the 62nd minute or something like that, coming on to replace Axel Dizazi. And I have to say, I was a bit underwhelmed by Josh. He looked quite slow and quite out of his depth, for lack of a better term. He wasn't really out of his depth, and he wasn't getting like hammered or anything by their left winger, but there was just a bit of times when his passing wasn't as crisp as it probably should have been, and he did look a bit sluggish. This is unbelievably harsh. He will definitely improve as a player with experience, but I am a bit underwhelmed by what I saw from Josh. I'll leave those two there. There's not really much more to say on them, and we'll move into our plethora of blue cards, starting with Cesare Casadei. He did really well today, to be honest, considering he was deployed in a position that he is unfamiliar with. He was deployed as basically as a lone number 6, and Casadei is obviously more of a box-to-box goal-scoring number 8 kind of figure. So he did actually really well today, Casadei. I was quite impressed. I didn't expect him to start. I was honestly quite impressed he got any game time at all, but he played the full 90 minutes of this game. He did really well, Casadei. So very impressed with him. I wouldn't recommend starting him against tougher opposition. This is the kind of game where he suited that number 6 role, because Barrow were just trying to be physical, and Casadei as that 6 can do that because he's a big dude. He's 6'3", he's quite a big dude in general. I wouldn't recommend doing that against tougher opposition. It isn't just all about the physicality, and that was the main thing that was making Casadei good, just his pure physicality. It's also not his best position. It was just meaning that all he could really use was his power, instead of his technique and his ability, which he gets to use a lot more deployed as a number 8. So wouldn't recommend for a long-term solution, but I admit it was a pretty good move by Maresca for this game. Moving into our second blue card, and it is for Pedro Neto. Pretty simple this. Neto got a goal. Pretty well set up goal by Mykhailo Mudryk, who we're going to talk about in a bit. And well taken by Pedro Neto. Mudryk squared the ball into him, and Neto has a tap in on his right foot. He's actually much wider from the goal than I originally thought he was on first view when he scored. But yeah, he was a lot wider than I thought he was. But yeah, good goal from Neto. He had a relatively good performance all game, to be fair, Neto. Obviously, bagging his first goal, always remember, and he went straight over to Mudryk to celebrate him, giving him the assist, which is something you love to see in general. But yeah, happy for Neto getting his first goal. Played generally pretty well. Played on the right side as well. He seems to be a little bit more comfortable on that side necessarily. He seems to know a lot more what he's doing. He can play equally as well on the left as he can on the right. That side seemed a bit more familiar to him, for lack of a better term. So, but yeah, good performance from Neto. Our next blue card is for Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. A relatively simple game from Dewsbury-Hall. Nothing spectacular, but I thought he deserved a mention. I thought this was a pretty good performance from Dewsbury-Hall. He was linking up quite well with a lot of the players, with Felix and Mudryk quite especially. Like, there was a lot of times where Dewsbury-Hall was threading through those through balls for Mudryk to chase down, which is something Mudryk was incredibly good at today. A relatively simple performance from Dewsbury-Hall, but I'd say a good performance. Now we move into some of the really big hitters of this game, beginning with João Felix. I tipped in my preview for this game, in the countdown, for Felix to have a quality game, and I have to say he didn't disappoint. He was quite often a bit of a metronome for this team, bit of a fulcrum when everything was kind of going through him. He was the one making things happen. Obviously got the assist for Christopher Nkunku's goal. Beautiful lobbed pass over the back line for Nkunku to bury in the back of the net. Scoring from that free kick. Very unlucky that it was ricocheted off the post and back in off the keeper, so it technically doesn't count as his goal. Unbelievably unlucky in that aspect, but nonetheless a great free kick from João Felix to get that goal. And he was just being this dictator, this controller, that everything went through him and he was the one kind of controlling the game a little bit more, which is what I said would happen in the preview, and I really like that from Felix, and I think we can see a lot more of his quality in more games. I would love to see that. So yeah, good performance from Felix. The man who had possibly the most impressive performance is Mykhailo Mudryk. Mudryk looked really good today. Like, he actually looked so good. He was linking up with players all over the pitch. He linked up quite nicely with Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, as I mentioned earlier. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier as well, he got the assist for Pedro Neto, which he did really well for. Him and Nkunku combined very well for that. Nkunku more or less just stood near the defender and the ball dropped to him. He played that to Mudryk. Mudryk basically one-on-one with the goalkeeper, or 2-on-1 technically actually, because he had Neto to the side of him, squared it to Neto, and Neto has a tap in. And this is something very important that when I saw on social media, which is that if Raheem Sterling's in that situation, Raheem Sterling shoots that instead of passing it to Pedro Neto, and then it's a 50-50 whether he scores or not. So Mudryk made very much the right decision, and Neto had probably the easiest goal he'll ever score. He was also just roasting that fullback. That fullback had no idea what to make of him, because he just kept stopping and starting and stopping and starting, and eventually just knocked the ball past him and absolutely burned him for pace. That fullback had no clue what hit him when he went up against him. He clearly just couldn't cope with his acceleration. It was unbelievable. And Mudryk's crossing is looking a lot improved. Like, he was putting some quite decent balls into the box, and he's looking much better. So he must have been working quite hard in training with Maresca. Now, I'm not going to get too carried away on Mudryk. Right now, his competition is Jadon Sancho and Pedro Neto. He's not exactly looking likely to start many games, and this is against Barrow, so you should be doing quite well in this game. I'd be more concerned if he was doing badly, and he didn't do badly. He did really well today. Mykhailo Mudryk. I think we all know who the man of the match from this game is. You know him, you love him, Christopher Nkunku, with a hat-trick for today's game. I don't think I really need to justify it anymore. He got a hat-trick. All three fantastic goals as well. As I mentioned earlier, the first one set up by João Felix with a lofted pass over the defence, and Nkunku just volleyed it in the back of the net. Second one, ball in from Malo Gusto, and it's a back heel round the goalkeeper into the far post. Again, an incredible goal. And the third one, all of his own making, completely picks the pocket of the goalkeeper, and then just a no-look shot into the goal for the hat-trick. A really good performance from Christopher Nkunku. Honestly, he genuinely does deserve to start for Chelsea, and maybe this will make the case that he should starting more games for Chelsea. Obviously, right now, if he's looking to start in the 10, he's shut out of luck, because that's Cole Palmer's position. The 9 is very much attainable right now. Obviously, we've been going back and forth quite recently for who should start between Nkunku and Jackson. Jackson is more of a striker than Nkunku is, but Nkunku is the most clinical player we have in the box. Like, his ability to just shrug off defenders and just plant his foot through the ball and get it in the back of the net is better than pretty much anybody's in the squad, bar possibly Cole Palmer. Nkunku is definitely making a claim that he should be in line to start. Could he start versus Brighton? It's very possible. With Jackson's great performance versus West Ham, I highly doubt Maresca will want to interrupt that. So we'll wait and see though. Nkunku could very well be in line for a start. He could play somewhere else on the pitch. We don't know. We'll find out, but incredibly impressive from Christopher Nkunku today. Just to wrap it up in a bow, we are through to the next round of the Carabao Cup. And on top of that, I think we put some oomph back in the Stamford Bridge crowd. They started quite quietly, but eventually when we started just absolutely pulverizing Barrow, they grew into the game, they started getting into it, they started believing a little bit more, and it started to feel a lot better. Now, this is obviously not a huge test for us. They're a League 2 side, top of League 2 admittedly, but they're a League 2 side. This was the result that should have happened, and it's the result that did, thank God. So we needed a result like this out of this game, and it will inspire a bit of belief in the team, because like the plays of pattern, or patterns of play, sorry, excuse me, were just incredibly interesting and quite impressive from this game, even if it is Barrow. So that should inspire a bit more belief in the Stamford Bridge crowd, and come Brighton at the weekend, we're gonna need that. We have a very good track record against Brighton. We beat them 4 times across 4 games last season, each with a 1-0 goal difference, all different score lines. Obviously 4-3 in pre-season, 1-0 in this round of the Carabao Cup this time last year. Our 3-2 home victory, which I was there for, of course. Match vlog is up on my channel. If you ever want to go and visit that, please do. I would love the support. And of course, the 2-1 away win at the end of the season. All very, very good games, all very important games and results. Now, since then, obviously, we have had a complete overhaul of our managerial system, as have they, employing the young German coach Fabian Hürzeler. So it'll be interesting to see how he matches up against Maresca. Obviously, he's actually not available for this upcoming game versus Brighton. He got a red card in the Nottingham Forest game, which means he's not going to be in the dugout for this game. So we'll see how that comes out, but that's for a later date. Right now, we're through to the next round. We are very much on the road to Wembley, and we are not slowing down. We are going straight through under the arches, and I think we could very well be in a chance of winning the League Cup this season. We got to the final last year. We need to go there again and avenge the loss of last year. Go there, win the League Cup, and prove that we are still the force to be reckoned with that we always were. Jose Mourinho's first trophy in the country was the League Cup, and that inspired the team to believe that they could be winners. We do the same thing with Enzo Maresca. We start looking like an absolute juggernaut of world football again, like we are. So with that being said, I will end this episode of the Blue Review here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. My name is the Crimson Wolf. I am the reddest Chelsea fan on the internet, and I will see you all in the next video. The road to Wembley is calling, so good luck with it.